For the next few days the mackerel swam with the shoal. He ate, he smiled, he laughed. His sleek body glided through the ocean like never before. His wounds were healing. But then the trace from one of the hooks that still hung from his mouth twisted through the seaweed and tugged on his lip. It was a dull but familiar pain that brought the mackerel's attention back to the hooks and the lampreys that he could now feel were hanging from his lip. Immediately the mackerel's anger flared towards the fisherman. These were his hooks. Why had the fisherman left him with this pain? Why had he not taken these hooks out when he had the chance? Up to this moment, the mackerel had started to think fondly of the fisherman, but now his gratitude ebbed away as the lampreys glowed red against his chin. The mackerel, feeling irritated and sorry for himself, snapped at a passing flash of silver for some kind of comfort. But the sparkle was a barbed comfort. Again the mackerel felt himself losing control of his direction to the pull from the rocks. It seemed just as unpleasant and difficult as last time. But while he thrashed and resisted, the mackerel's anger was now towards himself. How could he fall for such a temptation again? Had he learned nothing about hooks and lures? As he was lifted out of the water, it was just as before. The mackerel was a blur of vibrating rage. The fisherman's hand felt familiar now, but the mackerel resisted its warmth. "Are you caught again, my pretty one?" asked the fisherman warmly. "Just let me go," thought the mackerel. "Let me go." "You've got more to learn about forgiveness," continued the fisherman, stretching a lamprey out straight from the mackerel's lip so that they could both see it. The mackerel had felt it was there, and now he saw it. He felt sick to his stomach. But he knew all about forgiveness already. He'd learned well. He'd put it into practice, hadn't he? But there was nothing he could do about hooks. That was the fisherman's doing. "So who else do you need to forgive?" asked the fisherman, again knowing the mackerel's thoughts. But how could he forgive the fisherman? He knew that an apology could not be expected from this great and powerful man. "But remember, it's not about getting your debt paid back," said the fisherman. "It's about letting the debt go. You need to forgive me for your own sake." It seemed somehow wrong to presume to forgive the fisherman. It felt somehow too proud to contemplate. But the mackerel obediently did it anyway. And as the lamprey slid from his chin, a sudden realization overtook him. "You see now," agreed the fisherman, "that there is a closeness between us that you were resisting." It was true. The mackerel looked into the fisherman's eyes for the first time. There he saw compassion, warmth, and unwavering attention. He felt the closeness that he had turned away from before. The heart in his chest swelled, and he loved the fisherman back. "We shan't need these anymore," smiled the fisherman as he twisted the old hooks from the mackerel's lip. "They'd done their job." Their job? This was too much even for an enlightened mackerel. He had broken the lines of these hooks himself. They hadn't done their job. They'd failed, hadn't they? "Yes, they've done what I intended," continued the fisherman. "These hooks were never meant to catch you." The mackerel's mouth was now gaping, and, although this was partly due to being out the water for so long, he was still amazed. "Weren't hooks for catching fish?" "Not these hooks," replied the fisherman. "I gave you small wounds in order to heal a bigger one, to lead you to me. But there's still another you need to forgive." Surely the mackerel had forgiven everyone, hadn't he? He racked his brains. There couldn't be anyone else he'd forgotten. The fisherman had the answer. Who was it who kept getting caught? Who kept getting hurt? Who kept making the same mistakes, falling for the same temptations? The fisherman was clearly talking about the mackerel himself now. But surely he didn't need to forgive himself. Was it even possible? "Let me show you," said the fisherman, and unexpectedly pushed a finger down the mackerel's throat. The mackerel was so surprised that he didn't even resist. As the fisherman withdrew his finger, what came with it was the trailing tail of a long, thin lamprey. The mackerel was horrified. How long had this ghastly, ghostly creature been living inside him? "I forgive me! I forgive me! Please get it out," begged the mackerel, and with the fisherman's finger came the whole lamprey. The mackerel wasn't just relieved, he was at rest. He was now at peace with himself. All of the tension had fallen from his body, all of the stress from his mind, and he breathed, not gasping, not breathing water, but breathing air. He had learned how to drown in the fisherman's air, and it felt good. It felt right. So finally the fisherman let him back into the wide open sea again, and the mackerel took with him both the secret of forgiveness and the secret of life. He could breathe in the water or gulp in the air of the surface, and from that day on he would swim back to the rocks of his own accord just to spend time with the fisherman. He still gets bumped and grazed, but never gives a lamprey a mouthhold, because he understands that forgiveness is freedom for him. These days he doesn't feel the need to always be part of the shoal, and often finds that he does more leading than following. Sometimes he desires something bright and shining in the water, and sometimes he'll snap at it. But now when he's hooked, he goes willingly and humbly without a struggle, because he knows and trusts the fisherman.